Well, I can see why someone would want to do this car. This is very similar to my own '82 Porsche 911 Targa. So tell me about it.
Well, I got a phone call from a lady who said, I want a special gift for my husband's 30th wedding anniversary. And he's been working on an old Porsche for years, and he finally got it back on the road. And I'd like you to come over and photograph it and do a piece of art. So I went over. They lived in a lovely home in Chevy Chase. And I said, well, why don't you park the car in front of your house, and I'll do your house and your car. And then they had an 18-year-old son. I said, well, why don't you put your 18-year-old son behind the wheel? I'll do your son, the car, and the house. And this is what happened. And when the piece was delivered, the husband was totally unsuspecting, and she said he cried when he got the piece. And so that made my day to hear that he loved it so much.
So yeah, this one's really nice because you have so many elements. I mean, you can just look at the house, and that in itself is a piece of art with your use of color, and some of the fall colors there. And then when you put the car in front of it, it just all comes together.
Yeah, this is a piece I really enjoyed doing. It was a lot of fun for me. This is obviously a '57 Chevy, but I got a little tiny black and white photo of B's restaurant, where the owner of this Chevy worked when he was in high school as a busboy and a dishwasher and later a waiter. His grandmother owned B's, and he worked his way through college working there in his spare time. But his car was a '57 Chevy, and his wife commissioned this as a gift, and she said, the only thing I can tell you, it was a Bel Air, and it was copper with a white top. So I kind of made this up from my reference materials of '57 Chevys, and when he got the piece, he was very excited. He said, it looks just like my car. This piece is very special for me because in 1957, my dad bought a 1931 Model A Sport Coupe as a daily driver, believe it or not. Back then you could still see these things on the road, and it had a rumble seat, and we used to fight to get to ride in the rumble seat when the weather was nice. And I actually did this piece at Virginia Beach. We went down to the Model A owners convention, and there were literally hundreds and hundreds of Model A's, and we saw this 1931. It looked exactly like the car my dad had owned in 1957. And so my dad was with me, and I said, Dad, go over there and pose. I'm going to get a picture of you. And he didn't know I was going to do this artwork, and it came out beautifully. And I've had so many people say to me, oh, we used to have a Model A, and that looks just like my dad. So it really worked out nicely. But I guess it is one reason that I have a real fondness for Model A's and still love them to this day.
Some cars are made famous even in songs. This was a Steppenwolf song, Jeepster. So tell me about this one.
Well, this is a little two-door, I guess you could say it's a two-door roadster, or I guess it's not a roadster. It does have wind-up windows on it, but it was a runabout that Jeep made. It was very popular in the late '40s and early '50s, and just a fun car. And a friend of mine bought one of these and restored it, and then as soon as it was finished, called me and said, you've got to see my Jeepster. I just got it finished. And so he drove it over, and we parked it at the park where I live, and he said, can I put my dog in the back seat? I said, absolutely, we'll get everybody in there. And so we did the car, the dog, the guy, and the whole bit, and it really came out nicely.
And you can see how nostalgia, like the PT Cruiser convertible,
Yeah.
They obviously had this in mind, I think. Okay. There's sort of a car in this one, and obviously I can see that this is a very well-known restaurant, which is in Arlington, Virginia now, but was in Washington, D.C. downtown. Tell me about this one.
Yeah, this was right before it was torn down. This was on F Street, and the whole area was redeveloped, and everything, the little shops and restaurants that were there, were all torn down, and this was criminal because this place was so popular, a little neighborhood restaurant, and people still know this restaurant today, years and years and years after it was torn down. And I just saw the wrecking ball coming in the reflection in the window and thought that would be kind of appropriate. So I did this piece. There's a lot of color in it. It was a lot of work, but it really came out great, and it was a huge successful piece for me.
Well, like Whitlow's, this is Bob Peck Chevrolet, and this was an interesting shaped building in Arlington, Virginia, and now it's gone. So I see that your art, just like Whitlow's over there, sometimes preserves history. So tell me about this one.
Yeah, well, I saw that the building was being torn down. I didn't get there in time to photograph the building, and it had been such a futuristic car dealership when it existed in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and really into the 90s. And the sign was still there, and I said, wow, that's a great old sign. When I was growing up as a kid in that area, Bob Peck was on the radio every day, and so I had real good memories, and I thought I'll preserve the Bob Peck Chevrolet sign forever in this piece, and it came out pretty nicely.
And like the wrecking ball in the Whitlow shot, you see that the modern buildings are encroaching in the background.
Exactly.
So the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, the little used car building is still there, but not for long. This is a commission. I got a call from Euro Classics, which is a sports car dealership in Richmond, and they asked me to come out and photograph some of the Porsches and do a piece. And ultimately, what this piece ended up being was a design for a T-shirt. And they produced some great-looking T-shirts, black shirts with this design on the back, and I had a lot of fun with it.
So there's actually T-shirts going around with this, and then is that your art then on the T-shirt? I guess it is.
Well, yeah, it is. It's reproduced. I got a byline, so so much for that.
Do you get paid for every shirt, or do they just buy you out with the design?
No, I gave them a reproduction, a one-time price for reproduction rights, and they could produce as many shirts as they wanted. This is a recent commission. This is a newly married couple in a Bentley convertible, and the custom in Europe is to drape the car with white roses, and it's kind of hard to see because it's such a close-up, but the car is covered in flowers. And the wedding was in Tuscany, and their best friend sent me a photograph and said, would you do me a piece as my wedding gift to them of the two of them in the car. And so this is what I did. We're at the Eastern Market in Washington, D.C., looking over the flower vendor, and when I started taking pictures of the flower vendor and his arrangement there at the market, there was an old black Plymouth minivan parked on the sidewalk, and I said, there is absolutely no way I'm putting that in one of my pieces of art. So I have very extensive car files of cars that I'd like to use and maybe haven't gotten around to it, and one of them was this 50s Ford pickup truck, and it was just crying to be in this piece, and I decided to make it orange to go with the flowers, and I was very pleased. People will always say, was that truck really there? And I have to tell them the story because they don't believe. If I tell them yes it was, they don't believe me. If you'd like to see more of my work, we've got a dynamite website at www.josephcraigenglish.com. Hope you'll check it out.